The Honeydew with y'all. Thank you for your support. Here's Ryan Sickler.
Welcome back to the Honeydew with y'all. We're over here doing it in the NIGHTPANTS studios. I'm Ryan Sickler. Thank you for your support. I can't tell you how much I love my fucking job. This show, look, it's my favorite. It's my favorite to sit and talk to y'all. You got the wildest fucking stories out there. And I love seeing this community grow. So if you're new here, and I know a lot of you are, and you're in for the long haul, let me help you save some money. Sign up for a year. You'll get over a month free. You also get all the back catalog, audio and video options, and as well as the Honeydew ad-free a day early. All right? So if you or someone you know has that story that has to be heard, please send it to honeydewpodcast@gmail.com. You do not need to be a Patreon member, and it doesn't need to be your story. You know, I just had a guy on talking about his brother who was run over by an SUV, died twice. They saved him, and then he lived life to the fullest, and then the poor bastard choked on steak and died a third time. So obviously he didn't tell his story. You see what I'm saying? So as you guys know, these are the stories behind the storytellers. Also, you know what? Before we begin, make sure you come see me out on tour. All right, the NIGHTPANTS Nation tour is kicked off. Come out and get your tickets at ryansickler.com. All right, these are the stories behind the storytellers, and today we've got a pretty interesting laundry list of shit to talk about with this guy right here. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Honeydew with y'all, Kevin Whitt, y'all. Welcome to the Honeydew with y'all, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Kevin. I feel your electricity.
Yeah.
First of all, Kevin, I do see a Falcon shirt, but that doesn't mean you're in Georgia. Where are you right now?
I'm in Eastern Kentucky, a little place called Inez.
All right, Kentucky, okay. And how old are you, Kevin?
I'm 32.
32. And what do you do for a living, Kevin?
I work from home for a company that takes customer service calls and like sales calls for different types of companies. I can't really say who that is because I'm under an NDA not to. So.
Fair enough. Don't hurt yourself. Okay, so today with you, we're going to talk about a job you had. You answered an ad, blindly answered an ad. And
yep.
What ended up, the job you end up getting, we're going to discuss a laundry list of the lowlights that you experienced in this position. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, pretty much.
So
yeah.
Tell us about this ad. What ends up happening?
So
how old are you, by the way, at the time?
I was about 18, so I'm fresh out of high school. No, I didn't know nothing. I worked one place before that, which was McDonald's. I worked six hours that night and woke up the next morning and said, fuck that.
I'm not doing that. One
day. I'm like, nope, not for me. My legs was hurting. Like the floor, I don't know what they put in the floor in McDonald's, but it's not regular concrete. I don't know. It tears your knees up if you stand there too long. But yeah, I answered an ad. Me and my cousin both answered an ad, and it said $325 to $400 a week guaranteed. So I'm like, oh, well, let's try this. That was a lot better than McDonald's, which was like maybe $150 a week at the time. It was about, I think, $7 an hour that I got paid for that 6 hours. I didn't even want it. I was like, I don't want to go back up there. And
you didn't even go back and get your check.
I know. I didn't want to go back to the area. It was like $30-some. It was like 6 hours of work. It wasn't. I'm like, nah, I'm not even wanting that. So me and my cousin answer an ad in the paper that said $325 to $400 a week. So we go. It's about 30 minutes away for the interview, and there's about 30 other people in there. Nobody knows what's going on. We're just all there, just making friendly talk. Then someone comes out and they just give a like an orientation, just like, thank you for being here. Thank you for answering the ad and all this stuff. About halfway through that orientation, half of the people already left.
Why?
Because they was picking up on signs of something.
They'd been there. They've been through this kind of shit before.
Something. And they seemed to like, I got this down. And me being 18 and not ever applying for anything. So I'm like, okay, let's do this.
So real quick, how many people would you say started in the meeting and how many were left by the time it finished?
There was about 30. I'm thinking
That's
this has
a
been
lot.
about 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's about 30 in that one meeting, and they had meetings like every day that week because people in Eastern Kentucky say here's a decent amount. I mean, $400 is not a decent amount anywhere else, but in Eastern Kentucky, that pays the bills. And so everybody was in there from all walks of life, like old people, young people, like people with felonies. You could just tell when they walked in. You're just like, because there was no background checks.
Yeah, right.
That's something else in the ad that I didn't pick up. No background checks, right there.
It said it.
Yes, it said it in the ad. There's no background check. I'm like, okay, that's fine with me. I don't have nothing against me anyway, so I'm all good. But half of the people, about 11 to 15, I can't say exactly. And there was about 8 people that stayed when we actually started doing it. But at the end of the first day, they bring out the vacuum cleaner, which was a Kirby Centria. That's what it was called. So I'm like, okay, you're wanting me to sell vacuum cleaners. I'm good with that. It's a job, $325, $400 a week. I can do it.
But they don't tell you that until that's the big reveal. Yeah,
but that wasn't even real. So
what do you mean? Did they come out with it turned on, like make a presentation?
No. He done that the next day. So this was a big build up to how much money you can make, and you could do all this while working here before telling us what we're doing. And then he brings out, we sell Kirby Centrias, and that's what the model was at the time. And
I've never heard of this vacuum before.
A Kirby?
Yeah.
You've never heard of a Kirby?
I mean, listen, I can't say that I'm like a vacuum fucking aficionado.
Right.
I've heard of a Dyson and a Hoover, but I don't know. I don't know where Kirby falls on the list.
I understand. The reason you haven't heard of them because they don't sell like marketing. They go door to door, and they've had for 100 years.
Oh, okay. So they're strictly a door to door vacuum.
Exactly. They're like rainbow vacuum cleaners, the one that use water. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. Electroluxes, that's kind of off brand. But yeah, they just go strictly door to door. It's in-person sales. And the reason that they do that is to show you in person how good they are. And they actually are good. I'm not putting the product down.
I hear you on that.
The people who sell them and work with them are terrible.
Right. The ex-cons and shit that are coming over there, leaning over with
the owner, the distributor at the time was a preacher.
Okay.
He's a Pentecostal preacher. I don't know if you know what that means. But
speaks in tongues, correct?
Yeah, and right across the river in West Virginia, they handle snakes and all that stuff. I'm just, nah, not for me. But he's coming out saying he's that. So that's what he uses.
Listen,
to get
you might have some kind of serpent behind you there right now.
Yeah, that's my dog. He I forgot what
Pentecostal preacher.
Yeah,
the distributor.
He comes up. Yeah, that's what he uses to sell as well. So at the end of that day, we've got about 11 people sticking around. The next day, when we come back in, that's when he decides to say, it's not guaranteed $325 to $400 a week. So I'm like,
now it's not guaranteed.
Now it's not guaranteed. But he says it is guaranteed if you do X amount of demos per week. So if it's 5 demos per day, that's 25 demos per week. If you hit that, then I'll give you this. But he's knowing that if we actually done that amount, we would make over that in compensation or commission, because we got a lot of commission. We can get into that as well. But there is a lot of commission that you can make. But if you can't sell the vacuum cleaners, then you're not going to make anything.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, I had this like a pep in my step. I was young and I some kind of charm that people liked, and I was making money. So I was making about $1,200 a week.
Damn, you were selling these vacuums like that?
Oh.
What's the average cost of one of these, by the way?
The average cost,
yeah.
I would say now about $1,900 to $2,100.
Damn.
Yeah. Okay. Back then, the average cost was about $1,600, $1,500.
But that's a lot for a vacuum.
You're telling me. They started at $1,989 plus tax. Okay. So I don't know how they do it, but they're doing the same thing that the subprime housing market people was doing in 2008. That's the same thing that they're doing, only with vacuum cleaners.
Okay.
So they've got a good financing team that just finances anybody with over X on credit score gets it, regardless. So if they don't have bad credit, if they want to finance it, you get over. At the time, I was getting over 1,080 Anything over 1,080 was mine. So that could be, if I priced it 2,500, if I wanted to, there was no price tag on the thing. I could just go in there and say whatever I wanted to. But we started at 1989 just to keep everybody on the same page. So as you talk, to the homeowners when you're doing the demonstrations, we skipped a whole bunch about, everybody skipping out after the first day. We dropped down to about 4 people after the first day. My cousin was let go after the first day as well.
What do you mean let go?
Well, the boss took me and him at the end of the day. He took me and him to Subway, and he was just talking about how it is with Kirby and all this stuff. And he pretty much says, Kevin, yeah, you've done a pretty good job. And I was like, well, thanks. I feel pretty good. But he's like, Randy, you didn't do that good of a job. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to have to let you go, but I'm going to buy you dinner. And I'm like, what? Okay. Subway. Bought him a foot long. Randy ate it all. And he just scarfed it down. It was all good. Randy didn't want to work there after that day anyway. He was too nervous. It just wasn't for him regardless. He could tell. But yeah, after that, a lot of people drops off, and he really only keeps like 3 or 4 people every group. So once you get trained and you learn what you're doing, you'll go to house and you give away Coca-Cola or Pepsi, 12 packs of pop just to do the demonstration.
All right, let me ask you this question here. Okay. This is Eastern Kentucky, all right? I don't know about anywhere else, okay? But I know that some motherfucker walking door to door through a neighborhood anywhere looks suspect these days. And is it dangerous to walk up to these doors in Eastern Kentucky? Because I feel like this is a positive Second Amendment state, and I'd be scared to approach every motherfucker with this shit. Plus, I'd be worried about getting robbed, too. That thing's worth money.
It is. I didn't think about that during the entire time. I only had one real encounter with a gun.
Not once? Okay, yeah.
Not once.
Let's hear some of these motherfucking stories.
So the only real time I met a guy with a gun we drive around in Kirby vans. It's a van that the owner or the distributor buys, and he lets the people drive it. That's insured and all this stuff. It looks like a rape van. I mean, they get the cheapest vans that they can find because who cares? So you go door to door. When you go around in these vans, there's a door knocker, a driver, and then there's people in the back that do the sales.
Oh, so it's not just you by yourself going out?
No. You got a crew. You got a crew, which makes it even worse. In some cases, because it's a group full of guys coming up to your house.
A group full of honeydews rolling up trying to sell you a fucking vacuum.
Tattoos on their neck. We can get into a couple of those as well. So you go up to the house and you knock on the door, and whoever answers, you say, hey, I'm with Kirby. You give your spiel. Say, we would like to give you a 12-pack of Coke or Pepsi to do a quick demonstration of our product just to get into the house. And it's not quick. It's about an hour and a half.
God damn, is it?
Once you start getting into it, the product kind of does sell itself, but there's a lot you got to go through. You got to go through showing them all of the Kirby machine and all this stuff. Then you've got to do the actual demonstration, which they have a little piece you put on the side of it instead of where the bag goes. It's got a filter that collects everything that you're vacuuming. So at the end of the demonstration, you've got these little discs about that big all over the house, showing them their dirt that they're living in. That's the sales gimmick. Like, look at all the dirt that you're living in. So you guilt trip them into buying. So once we get it to the house with the dude with the gun, I get out, and I've got my little outfit on. I just look all dressed up and spiffy. I look like a pretty much a census taker. I've got, everything all nice and neat. My buddy Irvin, he looks like a Jehovah's Witness, just black and white hair, and he's got like a suit on pretty much. And he goes door to door. But on this case, it was me knocking. I get out of the van. I'm just walking up. I've got my clipboard in my hand, just looking through the names of the people in the neighborhood. Because that's another tactic. Say, hey, Linda Lou down the street allowed me to do the demonstration, and she loves it. Would you allow me to? I mean, it's a free cleaning. Who would miss that? So I'm walking up to the thing, and I just see this guy, big beer gut, no shirt on, blue jeans, in a double wide trailer with the screen door. It's just glass. The door's open. And he gets up and he walks to the screen door and looks at me, and he just brandishes a gun like that. And I just stop. I look up. Message. Yeah. I'm like, hey, And I just said, I'm just with Kirby. Don't mind me. I just turned around and walked back to the van and left. That's the only time that a gun has ever been presented. But yeah, Kentucky is a big Second Amendment state, but everybody's pretty much homely and very nice.
Okay.
I've been in houses to where you offer them a 12-pack of Coke. You get in there, you start talking to them, demonstrating the product, and then they say, hey, my buddy just brought over a gallon of apple cider moonshine. Do you want to try some? And I've never drank before, so I'm like, hey, yeah, I'll try that. And try a couple sips and get totally crazy in that house. It was like a party when Irvin came back to get me. That's the first time I ever drank. But that
Wait, the first time you ever drank in your life was someone offered it to you and trying to make a sale. Yeah.
I'm trying to make $900 in an hour and a half. Like, let's do it. Come on.
Shit faced off of moonshine. Yeah.
And it was, I took too big of a drink too, because I never drank before ever. And I didn't know that it felt like fire going down your neck. And it's moonshine. It's not alcohol, like beer or anything like that. So it's a shot glass about that full. And I just didn't go, I went,
oh my God.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Did you throw up on the floor and show them how the Kirby cleans it up?
Nope, didn't do that. I stopped with the demonstration after that. I don't even remember if they bought anything. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think that they bought anything.
Well, I got a list of stuff I'm looking at through here, and I want to hear all these. How about you guys picked up hitchhikers in your van? Why on earth would you ever do that?
So, okay, we've got the owner of the company, the distributor. He's driving the van. I'm in the back left seat. The left door don't work, so I'm trapped in. Irvin's in the front right seat, and I've got one other person on the right seat. There's an open spot in the middle, and we see a guy hitchhiking. Andy sees the guy hitchhiking. I don't see the guy hitchhiking. I'm in the back seat, not giving a fuck. So I'm sitting back there, just looking out the window, and we stop, and he gets this guy and gives him a ride. So instead of the guy that I know scooting over and getting next to me, he gets out and lets the guy in next between us. Okay, we start going, and as we're going, you slowly start to realize this guy's a little off. He's a little,
yeah, well, he's hitchhiking. He's hitchhiking.
And
yeah, he's off.
He kind of talked like this, and he's trying to get back home to his wife, but it was just too far away. But Andy decided, hey, we're going to play a prank, but I'm not going to let anybody know about it until he gets in here. So Andy but he turns back and he's like, yeah, we're just on our way from Virginia. We're all a bunch of transvestite, not hookers. We're all a bunch of transvestite salesmen coming from Virginia trying to sell some vacuum cleaners. Do you want to buy some? He's like, no, man, I don't think I do, but my stop's right up here about a mile away.
Now it's a mile away.
Yeah. He's like, I just need to get out right up here.
Yeah.
And before we get to that mile, Andy pretty much asks him if he's ever had any gay experiences. And he's just like, he feels uncomfortable. You can see it. I'm uncomfortable. I didn't know this was going to happen. He's sitting beside me. And before he gets out, Andy has him actually say, well, yeah, I did have a gay experience one time when my wife stuck her pinky in my ass. But, I didn't really like it that much.
And he got out.
And he just got out. And I'm like, Andy, dude, if there's a hell, we're going to it. Like, you know that, right? And yeah.
Tell me about Irvin. You've mentioned Irvin a couple. Was Irvin basically your partner in crime on this job?
Well, I wasn't doing any crime.
I don't mean it literally, but it does turn out that way.
He was doing crime.
Yeah.
He was definitely doing crime.
So who is Irvin?
Irvin was a guy that I got like real close to at the beginning of the job. When I first got there, he's a good guy. He really is.
But he was a salesman like yourself. He wasn't an exec or whatever, manager or whatever you want to call
No.
Okay, all right.
He was a supervisor.
Okay.
At the time, so he was above me at that place. But he was really easy to get along with at the time. I didn't know that he was, pretty much an ex-convict from robbing people. I didn't know that he had the past that he had, but he was like somebody that you felt like you could trust at the time, and I did. And I still do if I talk to him, because he never did me wrong at all.
Was he older than you or same age?
Yes.
Yeah.
When I was 18, he was about 42 or 43.
Oh, okay.
So when I first got there, he was the first guy that I really got close to be like, help me with being able to sell the vacuum cleaners and stuff like that. And he did a good job at the start. But as time went on, the place started going downhill, and it led with, I think, Irvin, because he had a drug problem, and it's drugs around Eastern Kentucky is totally different than drugs in bigger cities. Eastern Kentucky, it's all about pain pills.
Okay.
It's about the
that's everywhere though. That is everywhere.
Right. You don't really see you don't see people that much on like coke and stuff around here. It's pretty much just meth and
pills.
Meth and pills. Yeah, just pretty much oxys. And you can tell when somebody's pilled up.
Yep.
So over time, Irvin starts to slowly degenerate later in the evening. So he's starting to do something halfway through the days that's starting to mess him up. So, and also as time goes on, the distributor, Andy, his uncle comes in and changes up the pay scale and only gives us 10% for whatever we make. So instead of me making $900 a sale now, it goes down to like $110, $120 per sale. So I'm not making anything because I'm getting upset, getting frustrated. So Irvin was somebody that I could, reach out to and be like, man, I'm starting to get stressed out, because as time went on, I was making $100 a week, $150 a week. And I'll reach out to him. I'm just like, hey man, I'm getting really stressed. I need something, to help me. And he's like, he gave me the best advice ever. He's like, don't ever start with any type of pills. Don't even try it. If you're stressed out, go ahead and just try weed. So I said, okay, do you have some? He's like, not with me. It's at home. So later that day, we go back to his house and I smoke. I inhaled. I knew how to inhale and everything like that from trying cigarettes whenever I was a kid. I didn't know.
But on this job, your first time drinking and smoking, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I didn't smoke on the job.
No, but
drunk.
Yes.
Yeah, after. But yeah, that's where I got it from. And then I went to his house, smoked a whole joint of really skunk weed. I didn't get high, like at all. Didn't get stoned.
I didn't the first time either.
And he's like, man, I've done this for a long time and I'm stoned right now. You sure you're good to drive home? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. So I drove home. Everything was good. Came back the next day. We didn't even work. We just went straight to his house, like 2 or 3 in the evening, and just started smoking. And I got really fucking high. Really, really fucking high. His wife comes home from working at Walmart.
Irvin's married?
Irvin's married.
All right.
At the time, Irvin's married. And he lets me know that he enjoys, well, he don't enjoy, but his wife enjoys getting fucked in the ass. So I'm like,
but he doesn't like doing it? What do you mean he doesn't enjoy it?
He didn't say, no. I didn't mean to say that. He essentially said that his wife likes to get fucked in the ass. So I'm just like, okay, that's odd to say when she gets home.
It's just some random.
So she goes in there and starts to shower and stuff like that. And evidently they had this entire thing planned if I would, but he wanted to do a threesome with me fucking his wife.
For real?
For real. And I was high as fuck, and I'm cool with it. So I did.
You had a threesome with Irvin and his wife?
With Irvin and his wife about 2 months into this job.
How many minutes?
What?
How?
About 2 months into the job.
2 months into the job, and you're banging the guy's wife with him.
With him. Yeah, with him. Like this is like the second time I've met her.
Ever. Is she cute?
Ever.
Is she a good-looking lady?
Fuck no. Fuck no. So I had been laid like one time before that because I just didn't. I didn't try.
So she's not a good-looking woman, but you're like, fuck it, I'm in this. I'm high. I'm gonna do it. And you're fucking this guy's wife in her ass. In her ass, but my dick wouldn't stay hard because I don't know if I was just unattracted, but I'm there. I'm wanting to do it. But my dick will just not get hard. Your dick's like, no. They're just like, I don't want to do this. And I'm just like, come on, man. Let's do this. Soldier up. And eventually she's just like, fuck it. You know what? I'll just, I like sucking dick too. So I'll just suck you until you get off. So that was the end of that night. So we go back the next day and just go back to work as usual. And nothing else, went on weird from there. Other than we started hiring worse people off of the bat, like immediately. Worse people meaning pretty much felons.
he got to where we didn't have any workers, so he was taking the bottom of the bottom. One guy, real name, and if you search him, it don't really matter. His name was John Money.
That's his real name?
Real name. He showed me his license, real name, and that was a sales gimmick that he used when he was in houses. So John Money's in this woman's house. I'm like a supervisor at the time. So I'm the crew leader. I'm driving people around, and I have my door knocker who gets out and knocks on doors.
Mm-hmm.
So I go in and close the sale, right? And on John Money's, this old lady, real nice old lady, has money. Everything's good to go. She should love it. John Money, I go up to close the sale and everything's fine and dandy. And then we don't sell it. She don't want to buy it, all this stuff. So John's like, hey, can I use your bathroom? She's like, yeah, sure. So while I'm in there talking to her, getting everything set up from his demonstration, he's in the bathroom. When I leave and he leaves, he's like, thank you, ma'am, everything. When we leave, we get pulled over like an hour and a half to 2 hours later. We're still working. We get pulled over, and he forces the state trooper at the time, gets everybody out and asks me if it's okay if I search. I'm like, I don't give a shit. It's a Kirby van full of vacuum cleaners. Go ahead and search. What happened was John Money had went to her bathroom and stole all of her medication.
All of it?
All of it.
Not just one of them. He got
not one of them. He got grandma's, all of her medication. All of it wasn't even like pain pills and stuff. It was just
got
like
her blood pressure,
vitamin C, fucking melatonin, everything.
He's got clearing that motherfucker out.
So he's got it on him at the time, and he's sweating bullets. And I'm like,
you don't even know what's going on.
I have no idea. So after he gets arrested and taken away, the state trooper.
So that lady called the police and reported
all
him.
of her medication's gone. I don't even think he tried to do it stealthy. I think he just went in there and just raked it all down in the bag that he had. Because there's like a Kirby box that you can take with you with all of the little ink. He took it in there with him. I didn't pay no attention. So the state trooper comes up to me and he's like, the woman let me know that you and the other guy at the time, his name was, I think it was, at the time, didn't even leave the front room, so it couldn't have us. So I knew that you was safe. I was just trying to see if you would let me search the van so I could get in. I'm like, absolutely, not a problem at all. And they arrested him, and we went back to work the next day, and Andy was trying to get a hold of him to bail him out because he was selling a lot of vacuum cleaners. And because that made Andy money.
Yeah.
You know, it's $1,000 a pop pretty much for him. So that was one guy that got hired that was not the best of character, I guess you would say, outside of me and Irving. Well, I guess my character is a little bit better than Irving. So.
Tell me about this muskrat.
Yeah. So we a place called Jenkins, Kentucky. I don't know if you know where I've ever heard of it. It's not a very big town.
No. I don't know it.
Yeah. So I'm down there and we're at a guy's house doing a demonstration. Then we leave. And then the Kirby van, the serpentine belt just breaks off. And with the serpentine belt, it runs a bunch of different things in the engine. And it just started getting hot immediately. So I had to pull over, and conveniently, there's a mechanic there. It's a mechanic shop right there that we broke down at. It couldn't have been better. It still took 7.5 hours to get that fixed because they didn't have a part anywhere in Eastern Kentucky because we don't have shit here. So as we're waiting on a delivery from wherever it was coming from, the guy's like, hey man, I've got this big gun out here if you want to go shoot it. And I'm just thinking it's, like a shotgun or a 357, something normal. I don't even know how big a gun this was, but it had to be a 50 caliber because it was this long. It was gigantic.
Yeah.
And there was a muskrat in the creek behind us. He's like, you want to see what it does to that muskrat right there? I'm like, it ain't my gun. It ain't my muskrat. And he shoots
it ain't my gun and it ain't my muskrat.
And it sounds like like somebody
cannon.
And it just explode. It don't explode, but the back of it exploded. It went in, and it just looked like it went like in it, but the underside was just exploded. It was just all over. It was disgusting. That was right around the time that I got.
And these are the mechanics that you're just sitting there waiting for your part. And they're just, this is how they kill time and muskrats, apparently.
Yeah, he didn't have any other customers that day at all. Not one other customer. And me and 3 other people had to sit there for 7 hours. And it was about 3.5 to 4 hours away from home. Nobody knew where we was. No cell service, because there's no cell service at this time, because it was in the time of the flip razor phones.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have cell service here now, let alone then. So we couldn't call anybody other than from his phone, and it was just terrible.
I want to hear about this. You smoked weed for the first time at the job.
Yeah, that was with Irvin when I fucked his wife.
Okay, so but it says the next house you went to.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So whenever I smoked, whenever I started smoking during the day when I was working, the first house that I went to was like a neighborhood watch, drug watch.
No.
Yes, I didn't know. So I'm in there just selling this Kirby. I got
smelling
my
like
jacket.
weed and shit.
I don't know if I smelled like it, but when you smoke, you don't smell it after. Like, you don't smell it at all. And Irvin comes in to close the sale at this time. So I'm in there vacuum cleaning, high as a motherfucker, giggling. Everybody's laughing. Everybody's loving it and all this shit. Then we go back out and Irvin's like, you do know that they was like drug watch force or neighborhood drug watch, right? And I'm like, not at all. And the guy in there, when I go back in there to get all the stuff, he's got this insignia that says drug task force on it right here.
It.
I didn't even pay attention. I'm just in there vacuum cleaning. And after you get so far through the demo, you're supposed to take the handle off of the Kirby and then put the small handle on it so you can pick it up. And you don't tell them what you do. You don't ask them what you do, and you tell them what you do. So after you do that, you put the little I forget what it's called, the little disc thing on it. And then you put the handle, and then you say, where's your bedroom at? So you've got the Kirby in your hand, and you ask them where the bedroom is. And they're like, what? And then you just start walking through the house, and the first bedroom you see, you go into it. Unannounced. You're in a stranger's house. You pick up a vacuum cleaner.
That's what I'm saying, man. I'm waiting to get one in the back of the dome.
Yeah. You pull off the sheets, and then you just take this thing and you switch the little pads from white to black. So now instead of white to show up like brown and black dirt, it shows up white dirt, and it takes up all of the dead skin that's in that mattress.
Shit, for real?
And it looks like powder, like it's immediate when it goes poof, and it's disgusting. So after I find that out and I come back in there to get all of my stuff, I'm looking at him. I'm like, I seen that you was with the DEA. Are you sure that was you sure that was all skin cells in your bed in there? It wasn't cocaine? And that cracked him up so much that he bought the Kirby after that. I gave him a deal for, being whatever he was. But yeah, that was surreal. I didn't even know any of it during the whole time. And everyone's like, that's crazy.
Did you have, like, I see this little note here. Did you have competition? Were there other people out there like trying to? Oh
gosh.
Like other companies or other employees of Kirby?
No. Other different companies that's going door to door in Eastern Kentucky.
Selling vacuums also, or just other shit? No,
you'll find out. I'm in there. I'm in a woman's house who is completely paralyzed. She's in a little, I don't know what you call them, but it's a little wheelchair that. Go ahead.
Why are you trying to sell a vacuum to a woman that's in a chair?
Listen. Andy put me in there. He was the boss of the company at the time, and I'm there to sell vacuum cleaners. So she's moving around on this thing, moving back and forth, and I'm showing her how well it cleans. On a Kirby, it has a transmission. It has a neutral and a drive. When you put it in drive, it assists you to push it back and forth because it's a heavy
self-propel like a lawnmower.
It is, yes. So it goes back and forth to help you. So I'm in there showing her that she can use it. So she's paralyzed from like here down. She can move her arms to move her little joystick thing, and she can move the Kirby. So I'm showing her, hey, you can move this thing. She's got leather couches, so she can't use it on the couches. She couldn't pick it up anyway. It would flip her chair over.
But you got a paralyzed lady in a chair.
I've got a
vacuuming.
Yes, vacuuming.
You are a hell of a motherfucking salesman.
She's sitting, I really like it. And I'm just sitting there like, yeah, it's great. Well, she gets a knock on the door. So I'm like, can I get something? Do you have anything to drink that I could have? She's like, yeah, there's a bottle of water inside of the refrigerator. So I'm like, yeah, I'll go in there and grab one. So I go grab one. And when I come back, the knock on the door is a frozen meat salesman from, I think it was Schwann's. I think that was the company. He sells her $1,200 of meat in front of me.
No.
Yes. So I'm like, I'm not going to get a sale now. Even if I would have gotten a sale, I'm definitely not getting it now because she paid in cash. It wasn't like she gave a card number or financed it. She pulled out $1,200. And I'm just like, down in the dirt. Andy gets back to close the sale. And I say, before he gets to say anything, I'm like, hey, there was somebody that just came in here and she bought $1,200 worth of meat just to let him know, what's happening. And he takes that and turns it around and pretty much gets another sale for the same exact price. We got $1,200 out of that vacuum cleaner that day from her, right after she spent $1,200 on meat.
What was the sales pitch?
I don't really remember. I think it was just how easy it was for her to move back and forth, and she had never had a vacuum cleaner that she could use before. I think that was it, and the fact that she had dirt all over her house in pads, like all over her house. And regardless, that stays in her house because I'm not going to clean all that up and take it with me. So I'm just going to dump it in her trash can anyway.
Yeah.
So it's got dirt everywhere. She's got meat on the counter, frozen, getting thawed out, and she's just shelling out money. I felt terrible after I realized, when you're in it, you don't really think about things like that. You're just like, I'm here to make money, and that's what we do. And Andy's the one pushing the sale, so I'm just like, okay. But after I left the place, I'm just like, shouldn't have done that. That wasn't very kindly thing to do.
I like.
She really didn't need it.
I like it. She probably did need it. What about this aerosol story here?
Yeah. So when you work with a crew, especially if people stay there for a long time, you develop friendships and you play pranks on each other, just like everybody does. You play pranks on each other. So it starts out with pretty much Andy throwing, that's the owner of the company. We had two vans at this time. One, we just follow each other, then we break off. So there's just a little small 4-lane. We're following each other. Andy had gotten a coffee at the gas station. He put jelly in it. He put ketchup in it. He just filled it up with all kinds of different condiments, and it was just thick and goopy. And then he waves us to come around. So I pull up next to him. I'm driving behind him. I'm pull up next to him like, what does he want? And then as I get like right on his back wheel well, he chucks it out, and it goes right across the whole windshield of the van. I can't see. It's chocolate, it's ketchup, it's mustard, and the windshield, yes, and it's just whack, 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 and I couldn't see at all. Like, you can't see it all. So I had to stop on the 4-lane, get a bottle of water, and you dump it out, and they're up there dying laughing. So I'm like, you know what? I'll get him back. I'll get him back for this. I'll think of something. So before I get to think of something, Andy decides to play another prank on Irvin, and which was going to be driving the same van I was driving that day, the next day. Or not the next day, but the next week. He puts tuna underneath the seat.
Oh, shit.
Barely opens it. Just beep, barely opens it. It's his van. He owns the company. It's his van. But he still does that. So a week later, Irvin comes back mad as hell because he drives that home, at night because he can't drive his own car and then take all that. So he's driving the Kirby van home. And when he gets up the next whatever morning it started getting really bad, he came in and he's like, Andy, where's it at? He's like, my trucks or the van smells like nothing but rotten fish. Where's it at? And then after we all figure it out and we start laughing, everything's funny. So I think, I'm going to play a prank. I can play pranks too. So I get a little can of like new car spray scent. It was like a little generic can. It smelled like ass. It was not very good smelling, but it was supposed to be new car spray. Right. I spray it in the vents. All in the vents, and every vent that's pointed toward Irvin. So it's Irvin again getting this happened to. I didn't know if it was going to be Andy or Irvin that day. So I sprayed them all in the vents, and Irvin had this habit of, soon as he gets in the van, of turning on the cold, no matter time of year. If it's wintertime, he cranks it up to 100. So he cranks that up again, the AC, and it blows all of that aerosol or whatever was in that can on his face. He inhales at the same time.
Shit.
And he starts throwing up. Throwing up. He can't breathe. Like, he literally, his respiratory system shuts down. He pukes all over the van. We have to all use either a personal vehicle or the other van if we got picked for that van. And from there, it was crazy. We got into throwing stuff at each other. I threw a honey bun from my van over when we was parked we was parked side by side and hit the owner, Andy, in the face with a honey bun. But it was, yeah, that was crazy. All of that was crazy.
Tell me about this van breaking down, getting towed.
That's another Irving situation. So Irving, essentially, this was about 3/4 of the way through my stint there. He starts going downhill, so he keeps getting fucked up every night, and it's getting worse and worse. So Andy don't see him halfway through the day, so we break off and we go do our own thing. And he just drives the Kirby van home. You're supposed to take the people that you got back to the Kirby lot, get their cars, and everybody disperses. He drives the van back home. That night he got fucked up on something. I don't know if it was somas. I don't know if it was pills and alcohol. I don't know what it was, but he was very slurry that I drove to the Kirby shop. I'm like, you ain't driving me. This ain't gonna happen. So I drove there and we broke off, and I let him drive home because, he's a grown adult. I'm 18, 19 years old. I'm just like, do what you got to do, man. I ain't going to tell you what to do or what not to do. So he drives it home, fucked up. I'm following him through a little town called Paintsville, Kentucky, through the red lights. And he keeps drifting off like that. Very bad. So I tried to get up to him to tell him to pull off to McDonald's the next time. And he cuts me off and pulls into McDonald's to get some sausage and biscuit. But it's 11 o'clock at night and they don't have sausage and biscuit. So he gets pissed off, storms out of McDonald's in Paintsville, Kentucky, which you can't really do. It's very close congestion there. The little bit of traffic we do have is all in Paintsville, Kentucky. So he storms out of there. He leaves. The cops see him, but they don't. The cops are right there. They don't chase him. I'm there too watching. The cops don't go after him. And then I just go ahead on my way home. I don't remember anything that happened, or I don't know anything else that happened the rest of that night till I get up and go back the next day. Andy is severely pissed off because he has to pay like a $300 towing fee for his van. And I'm like, what happened to the van? They bring the van in and the whole front left at the driver's side is just scraped off. He went down in a huge culvert and hit these big rock walls that they put in to hold up a crank embankment or whatever it is. And he hit that and just kept driving because there was rocks on the bottom too. So he scraped it all to pieces. The cops get there and they take him to jail, DUI, whatever. He gets out the next day because Andy bails him out. And he spent a lot of money bailing people out. I just realized that. But he bails him out.
Yeah.
He fixes the van and everything is hunky-dory from there. He brings then Irvin takes that van home. The next day, I'm in charge of the small Kirby van. It was like a minivan, same color, everything. It was a Dodge, like a full-size Dodge van, but it was the smaller one that I was driving that day. We get finished all that day, and we come back home. I'm bringing all the crew back home, and then the axle starts popping. I don't know if it was the bearing or the axle, but it starts popping really badly, and I can't really control it on the road, so I have to park it where across the road from Kirby because I couldn't get up the embankment because it was steep. So I park it across the road, which is like a little strip mall thing. One person owns it and they own like a bunch of different businesses, but they also have a van there. Same color, same everything, but on the side of it, it says the business that it was. I don't know what business it was. So I call Andy. I say, hey, the van broke down. It's in the lot across the street. Call your mechanic, have him pick it up. I come there the next morning, the van's still there. I'm like, hey, did you call him to get that? He's like, yeah, they're already down there working on it right now. I'm like, the van is right here. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, go to the mechanic shop, which was like 2 miles away, wasn't very far. I go there and they picked up that business's van, pretty much stole the van.
The wrong van.
Bought it there. Started taking parts off of the axle and started repairing it. And I'm like, you guys got the wrong van. You guys got the wrong van. So they're like, what? So they put everything back on, take it back there. I don't even think they figured that out. I don't even think the owners knew that happened. But we put it back. They got the other van and took it back. But I thought we was going to get in big trouble for that. But it wasn't me that stole it. It was the mechanic. So,
Jesus Christ, the life of a door-to-door vacuum salesman. What? All right, I know there's a story you wanted to end with with Irvin. So
yeah,
let's hear how this all goes.
So at the end of my pretty much tenure with Kirby,
and how long? How long were you all in?
About 2 years.
2
I don't know
years.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, about 2 to 3 years roughly. It wasn't 3 years, but it was around that. At the last couple months, I was owing them money. because I was giving out Coke and I had to fill up the vans to drive every day. And that all comes off of their tab until, we make sales and it comes off our paycheck at the end of the week. I wasn't making any sales. Nobody was buying stuff. This was right after the economy collapsed. Nobody was buying anything at this point. And I'm just owing money every week instead of making money. So we just said one day, me and Irvin said, you know what? Fuck it. We've got a little bit of money on us. Let's just go to Lexington. Let's go to a strip club. Let's just go do that. So we decided to do that, go up there. I get the only and best lap dance of my life from a very good looking stripper, which was fantastic. Irvin got me in there. I was underage at the time. I was like 19, but they didn't check. They just thought I was old enough. So we go in there. I got the private lap dance. He paid for it. Irvin paid for it. Everything was cool. Irvin just gets up and leaves halfway through that. So I'm like, okay, I know where we're parked. And I've got the keys, so nothing's going to happen. After everything gets done with the lap dance and stuff like that, I was trying to get a blowjob because I looked over and seen another stripper giving an old man a blowjob. So I'm like, I want one of those. And she's like, I don't do that. I'm like, $50? She's like, no, I don't do that. So I got up and leave. I go out to the van and then I'm sitting there waiting. It was about 30 more minutes after that. Irvin comes to the van with this chick and I don't know her. She looks like a hooker. And he pretty much gets in and says, hey, she's coming with me tonight. And I'm like, you're married, but whatever. He's already.
I like how
up.
You say you're married after you already fucked his wife in the ass.
He
now
said it was
matters.
Okay. Well, I think if they both agree, it's not wrong, right?
Fair enough. It's not. No, as long as she consents and he consents, it's not wrong.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So everything was cool. And I'm just like, hey, I know Rhonda. She's going to get severely pissed off. He knew that she would get pissed off. So he changed clothes before we went to the strip club because he knew that we would smell differently coming out. I didn't know that. I had no idea that when you came out of a strip club, you smell different.
You definitely smell different.
Yeah.
And you glisten. You glisten.
Yes. So we've got a glove compartment pretty much full of some clothes of Irvin's. And then Irvin's got like his undershirt on from like underneath his dress shirt. So we're driving back home. Everything's good to go. I drive from Lexington back home and I just go to my car. I leave. Everything's good. And he just disappears. I go home. I come back the next day. Irvin's not there. And Andy's like, could you come in, my office? Let's speak for a minute. And I'm like, yeah. I come in there and he's like, Rhonda just called me and said that Irvin's in the hospital with severe blood loss. I don't know if they said severe, but it was a lot of blood loss. And I'm like, okay. Did he get stabbed or something? And he's like, no, he got shot last night by his brother.
By his brother?
By his brother. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, where is he at? They tell me where he is. It's about an hour away because the local hospitals around here are retarded. They don't know what they're doing. So we go up to Ashland, Kentucky. We don't. I do. I go up to Ashland. I go in there. I ask the nurses where they're at or which room he's in and stuff like that. They've got him stable at this time. I go in there. I start talking to him a little bit. He can't really talk at the time. So he's just telling me, that fucking hooker. And I'm just like, okay. I'm just like, what the hell's going on? So I leave from there I don't leave from there. I go from his room back out to the front. And they asked me if I'm pretty much with him, if I could take care of the personal possessions that he brought with him. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, I'm his best friend. I can take it back with me. It's not a problem. She reaches me some clothes, but it's not his clothes. It's the hooker's clothes. So I'm like, what the hell? But it wasn't like skimpy outfits. It was like blue jeans that he could fit into. He was a pretty skinny guy. And it was like a short shirt. It was like a cutoff shirt. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I have to wait a couple of days to figure out exactly what happened. So when Irvin gets better enough to talk when he's in the hospital to tell me exactly what happened, he took her after he left there. He was going to take her out and fuck her essentially. But in the middle of fucking, he was wanting to fuck her in the ass. And she said, that's more money, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, okay, whatever. So he starts fucking her in the ass. They're both shit-faced drunk at this moment. She, at some point, evidently has an accident all over him.
She shit?
Where she shit on him. I don't know if he was packing in the air and then it just came out. But his clothes, he told me, he's like, I had to get rid of. It was
definitely gonna smell different after that.
Yeah.
You're definitely gonna smell different after that.
He's got a clean, just a white t-shirt on, and it's got specks of shit and just watery shit too. He said it was just water.
God.
He took that off. He demanded her get in the clothes that he had in the glove compartment. I have no idea why, because I guess they're both fucked up. And he puts on her clothes. She evidently was like, okay, that's fine with me if it makes you happy. She does that. They go back to his house, or is not his house, but his brother's house, because he didn't want to go home smelling like shit and a hooker. So he gets up to his brother's house, and he's got a key to his brother's house to get in.
Oh, no.
Yeah. In the middle of him trying to drunkenly get in his brother's house, the hooker's still back in the Kirby van doing whatever she's doing. I don't know. But he's trying to get in. And he said, as I was getting in, I heard some rustling on the other side, some footsteps, and then it just got silent. And then a bullet shot through the door.
Went through the door? He just shot, he didn't even open it?
No, his brother was also fucked up drunk that night because they both drink, like heavy drinkers. He thought somebody was trying to break in to get the shit that he had there that wasn't really worth shit, like Dale Earnhardt cars or whatever.
Yeah, right.
And he thinks somebody's getting in, and he just shoots through the door, shoots Irvin right here in the collarbone.
Holy shit.
It goes down through his body and comes out right next to his dick and balls.
No way.
Yes,
it went down like that?
It went down. I don't know if it was the whole bullet or a shard.
God damn.
But it only hit like a couple things going down, and it came out next to his dick and balls.
Oh my God, dude.
So yeah, after I talked to him, I was like, dude, that's kind of fucked up. And after he got out of that, I don't know what happened. Like I lost contact with him after he got out of the hospital, because a couple of days after that, I pretty much went up to Andy. I said, hey, I'm owing you too much money at the end of the week. I can't do this. So I got to quit. I'm not man enough for the job, evidently. Yeah. So I got to quit. He was understanding at the time. He didn't, like it, but he was understanding. So I leave. I tried to get a hold of Irvin a few times since then. He got on Facebook one time, and I messaged him. He's like, hey, bub, what's up? That's it. He never messaged me back. I messaged him back like, hey, what's going on? He never responded, never got back online since then. I looked for him about last month after I reached out to you guys. And it's apparent now that he's in Arizona in the pen. For
Irvin?
Irvin, yep.
He's in jail, in prison in Arizona?
Yep.
For
Irvin
what?
Yenter,
Do you know?
Look him up. Drug possession and drug dealing, I believe. Narcotics.
Poor Rhonda.
Previous record.
Rhonda's probably getting her ass pounded all over you.
I don't know, man. I don't know. That has to be gullible 18-year-olds like I was.
God damn, Kevin. Well, thank you for sharing your story, dude. This has been a fun episode. I like the fun ones like this, too. Yeah. Who the fuck knew? The life of a door-to-door vacuum salesman. I know Josh Nasser, a comedian out here, would do door-to-door meat, too, but I never met a door-to-door vacuum salesman. Is that shit still going on? Are they still out there and
Absolutely.
around? They are.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. They consider themselves a Fortune 500 company, and they do make a lot of money, but it's pretty much just strictly door-to-door sales. And if anybody out there gets somebody that, a salesman, don't be afraid of them unless they look scary. Then I would be afraid of them. If you're looking to buy one, bring them down. Bring them down.
Bring them way down.
Way down.
Well, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate you coming on today. And for all of you out there who have a story that needs to be heard, please submit it to honeydewpodcast@gmail.com. We'll get through them, hopefully get to do an episode together. It's $5 a month. If you're in for the long haul, you can save over a month of episode. You'll get over a month of free episodes. All right, you get the Honeydew a day early ad-free. And you do get an audio and video option for all episodes. So send in your stories. Come out and see me on the Night Pants Nation tour. Tickets available at ryansickler.com. We'll talk to you all next week.